You're in big trouble. License and registration now.
I'm Captain Jones. There's a house fire, 2 kids and their mother. My crew's short and I gotta be there now.
I said stay in the car. You want to drive recklessly, you talk to a judge.
I got my chief's uniform.
What happened to the family trapped inside that burning home? All because of one rookie cop's mistake will leave you in disbelief. We open immediately with the rookie cop's shaking body cam, blinding daylight, blasting horns in rush hour traffic. A black man in a black sedan slams his hands on the steering wheel, shouting through a half-open window, "Please, I'm a fire captain. 2 kids and a mother are trapped." The rookie officer ignores him, voice cold, hand already on his cuffs. The next 90 seconds will change everything. What you're about to see is the exact moment a rookie cop made a decision that would cost a firefighter his career, cost a city its trust, and cost a family their lives. Before we continue, where are you watching from? If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. Stories like these need to be shared, and your support helps us bring more truth to light.
Memphis, Tennessee, Poplar Avenue during the 3 p.m. rush hour on a scorching August afternoon where the temperature had climbed to 94 degrees and tempers were already short. Traffic was gridlocked in both directions. Commuters heading home early, delivery trucks double parked, construction zones narrowing lanes to a crawl. The kind of urban congestion where even emergency vehicles struggled to make progress. Captain Marcus Jones had been with the Memphis Fire Department for 16 years. At 42 years old, he was a decorated veteran who'd risen through the ranks from probationary firefighter to company captain, earning commendations for bravery, leadership, and tactical excellence. He specialized in structural fire suppression and had personally rescued 23 people from burning buildings over his career. That afternoon, he was off duty. He'd taken a personal day to attend his daughter's middle school graduation ceremony. He was wearing civilian clothes, a dark blue button-down shirt and khaki pants, and driving his personal vehicle, a black Honda Accord. No uniform, no lights, no sirens, just a father heading home from his daughter's special day. At 3:17 p.m., his department issued radio, which he carried even off-duty, as all captains were required to do, crackled to life with an emergency dispatch. All units, structure fire with entrapment. 2847 Lamar Avenue. Multiple 911 calls reporting children trapped on 2nd floor. Flames visible from street. All available units respond immediately. Captain Jones's body reacted before his mind fully processed the information. His heart rate spiked. His hands tightened on the steering wheel. Because 2847 Lamar Avenue was 6 blocks from his current location, and the address triggered immediate recognition. It was a residential area he knew well, an older neighborhood with wooden construction and narrow staircases, the kind of structure that could go from manageable fire to complete collapse in under 10 minutes. He keyed his radio. "Dispatch, this is Captain Jones. I'm off duty but in the vicinity. I can be on scene in 3 minutes to assist with command and entry operations." The response came back immediately, tight with urgency. "Captain Jones, we have confirmation of 3 victims trapped, 2 juveniles and 1 adult female. First engine is 8 minutes out. We need senior command on scene immediately. You're authorized for emergency response." That authorization meant everything. Under Tennessee law and Memphis Fire Department policy, off-duty firefighters responding to confirmed entrapment situations were granted the same emergency driving privileges as on-duty personnel. They could exceed speed limits, navigate through traffic, and take necessary actions to reach the scene as quickly as safety allowed. He activated his emergency flashers, 4-way hazards, that while not as distinctive as fire apparatus lights, signaled to other drivers that his vehicle was responding to an emergency. He began navigating through traffic, using shoulders where available, honking to signal his approach, moving with the controlled urgency that 16 years of emergency response had trained into his muscle memory. He wasn't driving recklessly. The Bodycam footage from what happened next would later confirm this. He maintained reasonable speeds. He stopped at red lights long enough to ensure cross-traffic had cleared. He signaled lane changes. He drove exactly the way emergency response training taught, fast but controlled, urgent but not suicidal. But to Officer Bradley Mitchell, a 22-year-old rookie with exactly 3 weeks of solo patrol experience, Captain Jones looked like a reckless driver who needed to be stopped.
Criminal behavior, reckless endangerment, someone who needed to be controlled. Mitchell activated his lights and siren and pulled into traffic to pursue. His patrol car was faster and equipped with full emergency equipment, so he caught up quickly. The chase, if it could even be called that, lasted 90 seconds and covered 4 blocks. Captain Jones saw the lights in his rearview mirror, and his heart sank. He had 3 options: stop immediately and lose critical minutes while children burned alive, continue to the scene and deal with the consequences later, or try to communicate with the officer while moving. He chose communication. He grabbed his radio and transmitted. "Dispatch, I'm being pulled over by MPD while responding. Please contact Memphis Police and advise of my emergency status." He began pulling over, but slowly, still moving forward, trying to minimize time lost. His window was already down because of the heat. As Mitchell's patrol car pulled alongside, Captain Jones shouted through the window, his voice carrying desperation and urgency. "Officer, I'm responding to a structure fire with trapped children. I'm Fire Captain Marcus Jones. I have authorization." Mitchell didn't hear "Fire Captain." He heard a black man shouting at him. And in his mind, shaped by 3 weeks of training that emphasized officer safety and compliance over all else, that shouting registered as aggression. The Bodycam footage captures Mitchell's approach. His face is set, angry, his body language aggressive. He's not assessing the situation. He's already decided this driver is a threat who needs to be dominated. "You're in big trouble. License and registration, now!" Captain Jones' face shows pure anguish. "Officer, I'm Captain Jones. There's a house fire with 2 kids and their mother. My crew is short. I gotta be there now." Mitchell's response is cold, inflexible, textbook enforcement mentality, without any room for context or emergency exception. "Stay in the car. You want to drive recklessly? You talk to a judge." The fire radio on Captain Jones' passenger seat crackles again. Dispatch's voice is strained. "All units, update on Lamar Avenue structure fire. Witnesses reporting children visible in second-floor window. Heavy smoke conditions. ETA on first engine is still 5 minutes." Captain Jones hears those words, and something breaks inside him. 5 minutes. 5 minutes for children who might have 2 minutes of breathable air left. 5 minutes while he sits on the side of a road explaining basic fire department protocol to a cop who won't listen. His voice rises, no longer calm, no longer professional, just raw human desperation. "My chief's uniform is in the back. Every second is life or death." He reaches toward the back seat, where his turnout coat and helmet are visible on the seat. It's a natural movement, reaching to show proof of his identity, to demonstrate that he's exactly who he says he is. But Officer Bradley Mitchell sees a black man reaching for something in a vehicle during a traffic stop, and his training, inadequate, incomplete, focused obsessively on officer safety while ignoring context, kicks in. "You're resisting. You just made this worse, pal." If you were in Captain Jones' place, what would you have done? Drop your thoughts below.
What happens next is captured in brutal, undeniable clarity from multiple angles. Mitchell's body cam, the dash cam from his patrol car, cell phone footage from a driver stopped 2 cars back who recognized something was wrong. All 3 perspectives document the same catastrophic escalation. Mitchell yanks open Captain Jones' door with excessive force. "Step out of the vehicle, hands where I can see them." Captain Jones's face shows disbelief, fury, terror, all competing for dominance. "Officer, you don't understand. I said out." Mitchell grabs Captain Jones' arm and pulls him from the vehicle. The radio in the car continues broadcasting. Command to any responding units, structure fire at Lamar Avenue is now fully involved, requesting immediate entry team for confirmed victim location. Captain Jones tries one more time, his voice breaking. Please, please, there are children in that house. Mitchell forces him against the hood of the Honda, the hot metal burning through Captain Jones's shirt. He wrenches the captain's arms behind his back. The handcuffs go on with mechanical efficiency, clicking closed with the finality of a prison door slamming shut. The cell phone footage captures Captain Jones's expression perfectly. It's not anger anymore. It's not even fear for himself. It's something worse. It's the face of a man who knows, who absolutely knows, that people are dying while he's being criminalized for trying to save them. Mitchell keys his radio, his voice carrying the false authority of someone who thinks they've just prevented a dangerous situation. Dispatch, I need backup at Poplar and Bellevue. Subject was driving recklessly through traffic, refused to stop, got aggressive when I approached. I've got him secured pending transport. Every single element of that transmission is false. Captain Jones wasn't driving recklessly. He was driving with emergency authorization. He didn't refuse compliance. He tried to explain an emergency situation. He wasn't intoxicated. Later blood tests would confirm 0 alcohol or drugs in his system. But those lies, transmitted over police radio and documented in official records, would become part of the narrative Mitchell was building to justify his actions. A second patrol car arrives within 2 minutes. Officer Sarah Chen steps out, a 5-year veteran who immediately senses something is wrong with this scenario. She walks over to Mitchell, who's standing guard over Captain Jones, still handcuffed against the Honda's hood. What's the situation? Subject was driving recklessly through traffic, refused to stop, got aggressive when I approached. I've got him secured pending transport. Chen looks at Captain Jones, noting his civilian clothes, but professional demeanor, the desperation in his eyes, and something else. The radio still broadcasting from inside the vehicle. She leans closer and hears it. All units, Lamar Avenue structure fire, we have collapse imminent. Where is Captain Jones? We need senior command for entry operations. 2-minute window before we lose structural integrity.
Chin's eyes widen. She turns to Captain Jones. Are you a firefighter? Captain Jones's voice is hoarse, exhausted, defeated. I'm Captain Marcus Jones, Memphis Fire Department. Off duty but authorized for emergency response. There's a family trapped in a burning house 6 blocks from here. I was responding when he pulled me over. I tried to explain, he wouldn't listen. And now those people are going to die because of this. Chen immediately keys her radio. Dispatch, this is Unit 347. We need supervisor response to Poplar and Bellevue immediately. We have a detained firefighter who claims emergency response authorization to an active structure fire. The response is immediate. Roger that, 347. Be advised, Fire Department Dispatch has been requesting police assistance to locate Captain Marcus Jones, who is responding to Lamar Avenue incident. Supervisor en route. Mitchell's face goes pale. Chen turns to him, her voice tight with barely controlled fury. You detained a fire captain responding to an active emergency with trapped victims? He was driving recklessly. He didn't identify himself properly. Captain Jones's voice cuts through, raw and breaking. I identified myself 3 times. I showed you my radio. I told you children were trapped. You didn't care. You just saw a black man and decided I was a criminal. The timeline would later confirm the devastating truth. From the moment Mitchell initiated the traffic stop to the moment Chen's call finally resulted in Captain Jones's release, 11 minutes elapsed. 11 minutes of arguing, handcuffing, processing, and bureaucratic confirmation of information that Captain Jones had been trying to provide from the beginning. 11 minutes while a house burned. 11 minutes while a family waited for help. 11 minutes that would determine whether people lived or died. Should firefighters responding to emergencies be exempt from traffic stops when lives are on the line? Let me know your opinion. The audio from Fire Department dispatch tells the story that body cams and dash cams can't capture. It's the voice of professionals watching helplessly as a situation spirals beyond their control. 3:21 p.m. Engine 17, what's your ETA to Lamar Avenue? Dispatch, Engine 17 still 6 minutes out. Traffic is heavy. We're moving as fast as we can. Copy that. Be advised, we have multiple 911 calls reporting children visible in second floor window. Heavy smoke conditions throughout structure. 3:24 p.m. Any unit in the vicinity of Lamar Avenue structure fire, we need immediate response. Captain Jones, what's your status? Silence. 3:27 p.m. Dispatch to Captain Jones, please respond. We have critical need for senior command on scene. More silence. Because Captain Jones is handcuffed on the side of Poplar Avenue, his radio out of reach, his voice unheard. 3:29 p.m. All units, Lamar Avenue structure fire is now fully involved. Witnesses reporting partial roof collapse, unknown status on trapped victims. The first fire engine arrived at 3:31 p.m., 14 minutes after the initial dispatch. Lieutenant James Morrison stepped off the engine and immediately assessed a worst-case scenario. The structure was a 2-story wood frame house built in 1952. The fire had started in the first-floor kitchen and spread rapidly through the walls and ceiling, creating a classic chimney effect that turned the stairwell into a blast furnace. Flames were visible through every first-floor window. Heavy black smoke poured from the second floor, and in the front bedroom window on the second floor, Morrison could see them. 2 small faces pressed against the glass, a woman behind them trying desperately to break the window with her bare hands.
Morrison's body cam captured everything. The frantic activity as his crew pulled hose lines, the radio calls for additional equipment, the tactical assessment that confirmed what he already knew. This was a rescue operation measured in seconds, not minutes. But Morrison was a lieutenant, not a captain. His training covered firefighting operations, but not incident command under these specific conditions. Captain Jones, with 16 years of experience, including specialized training in structural collapse and high-risk entry operations, should have been there to direct the rescue. He wasn't. Morrison made the best decision he could with the information and training he had. He ordered an interior attack, sending 2 firefighters up the exterior stairs to the second floor while his crew hit the first floor fire from outside to buy time. It wasn't enough. The 2 firefighters, both brave, both trained, both doing exactly what their profession demanded, made it halfway up the exterior stairs when the structure's integrity failed. 50 years of wood framing weakened by intense heat gave way all at once. The roof collapsed inward, driving a pressure wave of superheated air and debris down through the house. The firefighters on the stairs were thrown backward by the blast. The family in the second-floor bedroom, a mother, a 6-year-old daughter, and a 9-year-old son, had no chance to escape. Morrison's body cam captured the moment. The thunderous collapse, the explosion of sparks and ash, the screams of firefighters calling for help, and then, slowly, the terrible silence of understanding. The audio recording continues, Morrison's voice, steadying despite the horror, transmitting the words that no incident commander ever wants to say. Dispatch, Engine 17. Structure has collapsed. Multiple victims unaccounted for. Requesting rescue squad and medical examiner. The mother and her 2 children never made it out alive. At 3:34 p.m., 17 minutes after the initial dispatch and 3 minutes after the collapse, Captain Marcus Jones was finally released from handcuffs. A supervisor had arrived, confirmed his identity, and ordered Mitchell to release him immediately. Captain Jones ran to his vehicle, grabbed his turnout gear, and drove to the scene. He arrived at 3:41 p.m., 24 minutes after the initial call. By then, the house was a smoldering ruin. The rescue squad was pulling bodies from the debris, and Lieutenant Morrison was sitting on the bumper of his engine, his face buried in his hands, his body shaking with sobs.
Captain Jones walked through the scene in silence. He saw the collapsed structure. He saw the body bags being prepared. He saw his crew's faces, the guilt, the trauma, the helpless fury of professionals who'd done everything right and still failed to save lives. Morrison looked up and saw his captain. His voice was hoarse with smoke and emotion. "Sir, I tried. We tried, but the structure went before we could—" Captain Jones put a hand on Morrison's shoulder. His voice was steady, but barely. "This wasn't your fault, Lieutenant. You did everything you could with the situation you were given. This is on the system that kept me from getting here in time."
Fire Chief Raymond Patterson arrived on scene at 4:15 p.m. He was a 32-year veteran of the Memphis Fire Department, a man who'd seen every kind of fire, every kind of tragedy, every kind of loss. But when he stepped out of his command vehicle and saw the body bags, when he saw his firefighters' faces, when Captain Jones briefed him on what had happened, something in him broke. He walked to his vehicle in silence, grabbed his portable radio, and transmitted a message that would reverberate through both the fire department and police department for months to come. "All Memphis fire units, this is Chief Patterson. Stand by for important announcement. At approximately 3:17 p.m. today, Captain Marcus Jones was legally responding to this structure fire with confirmed entrapment when he was detained by Memphis police. Despite multiple attempts to identify himself and explain the emergency, he was handcuffed and held for 11 minutes while this family died. I am immediately requesting a joint investigation with the police department, the mayor's office, and the district attorney. This tragedy was preventable, and someone will be held accountable." The message was transmitted on an open channel. Every firefighter in the city heard it. Every police officer monitoring fire channels heard it. And within minutes, every local news outlet monitoring emergency channels had recorded it and begun reporting. By 5 p.m., the story had exploded across Memphis. By 6 p.m., it was regional news. By 8 p.m., national news networks were running segments with headlines that wrote themselves. "Black fire captain detained while family burns to death. Rookie cop's traffic stop costs 3 lives. Memphis tragedy raises questions about police training. Firefighter handcuffed as children die in a blaze." Chief Patterson went directly from the fire scene to Memphis Police Headquarters. Security footage from the building's lobby captured his arrival. Still in his turnout gear, his face streaked with ash and sweat, his expression carrying the kind of rage that comes from watching preventable deaths. He walked past the front desk without checking in, took the elevator to the 3rd floor, and entered Police Chief Marcus Williams' office without knocking. What happened next was described by multiple witnesses who heard the confrontation through closed doors. Patterson slammed Bodycam footage, already obtained through emergency interdepartmental protocols, on Williams' desk. "Watch it, all of it. Then tell me how we explain to that family that their mother and children died because your rookie cop couldn't recognize an emergency responder." Chief Williams watched the footage in silence. Mitchell's aggressive approach, Captain Jones's repeated explanations, the handcuffing, the 11-minute delay, all of it documented in crystal clear, high definition.
When the video ended, Williams' expression was grim. "Chief Patterson, I understand your anger. I share it. This officer will face immediate administrative review." Patterson cut him off. "Administrative review? 3 people are dead. That captain, one of my best officers, tried to save them. Your cop wouldn't listen, didn't verify, didn't care. He saw a black man in a car and decided that was all he needed to know." The meeting lasted 2 hours. It ended with both chiefs agreeing to a comprehensive joint investigation and a public statement acknowledging that the incident raised serious concerns about interdepartmental communication and police training. But the damage had already spread far beyond 2 chiefs' offices. The Memphis Firefighters Association, the union representing 1,400 firefighters, called an emergency meeting that evening. The vote was unanimous. Demand immediate termination of Officer Mitchell, comprehensive policy reforms, and financial compensation for Captain Jones. Civil rights organizations mobilized. The Memphis chapter of the NAACP issued a statement calling the incident a tragic example of racial profiling that cost innocent lives. The National Office of the Fraternal Order of Firefighters condemned the detention as unconscionable interference with emergency operations. Community groups organized protests. By Thursday evening, over 2,000 people had gathered outside Memphis Police Headquarters demanding accountability. The crowd included firefighters in full turnout gear, families who'd been saved by Captain Jones over his 16-year career, and residents who understood that if this could happen to a decorated fire captain, it could happen to anyone. Officer Bradley Mitchell was placed on administrative leave within 48 hours. The internal investigation moved with unusual speed, driven by public pressure and the undeniable clarity of the evidence. The investigative report, completed 2 weeks later, was devastating. Officer Mitchell initiated a traffic stop of an off-duty firefighter exercising legal emergency response privileges. Despite multiple verbal identifications and clear emergency context, Officer Mitchell failed to verify Captain Jones' status, escalated to physical detention, and delayed emergency response by 11 minutes. This delay directly contributed to the failure of rescue operations that resulted in 3 civilian deaths. Officer Mitchell's actions violated department protocols regarding emergency responder recognition, interdepartmental coordination, and use of discretion in traffic enforcement. The report also revealed something that explained, though didn't excuse, Mitchell's catastrophic judgment. He had never received training on recognizing off-duty emergency responder status. The Memphis Police Academy curriculum included one 45-minute PowerPoint presentation on interacting with emergency services, but it focused entirely on on-duty personnel in official vehicles. Nothing covered off-duty responses. Nothing addressed how to verify firefighter credentials. Nothing taught officers that emergency authorization extended beyond fire trucks and ambulances. Mitchell had been set up to fail by inadequate training, but 3 people were still dead because of his failure. Should rookies be allowed to patrol alone? Yes or no? Why?
Hands up! Drop the tool! Hold up. Officer, let me explain.
You're on private property. I don't care about your story. You're under arrest.
It's a false arrest, white man. I'm the chief city zoning administrator, and you just assaulted me on the job. See you in court.
It starts with a calm, quiet neighborhood. A black man stands at a property line, wearing a simple polo and safety vest, adjusting a surveying tool. He's working, methodical, professional, focused, and yet within seconds, a rookie officer storms in like he's walking into an active crime scene. His body cam catches everything: the panic, the shouting, the weapon-drawn stance over a surveying tripod. The man tries to speak, tries to explain, but the rookie refuses to listen. He arrests him for trespassing. He threatens him. He shoves him. But the cop made one fatal mistake, because the man he put his hands on isn't a criminal. He's the chief city zoning administrator, legally authorized to be there. And what happens next will destroy the officer's career and cost the homeowner $850,000. Before we continue, where are you watching from? If this is your first time here, please hit that subscribe button. Stories like these need to be shared, and your support helps us bring more truth to light.
Westbrook Heights, a tree-lined suburban neighborhood in Montgomery County, Maryland, where property values hover around $700,000, and residents pride themselves on maintaining perfectly manicured lawns and strictly enforced homeowner association rules. The kind of neighborhood where a car parked facing the wrong direction generates complaints, and where anything out of the ordinary triggers immediate suspicion. It was 10:35 a.m. on a Tuesday morning in late April. The weather was perfect: 68 degrees, light breeze, clear blue sky. The kind of spring day where construction crews and municipal workers take advantage of ideal conditions to complete outdoor projects before summer heat makes the work unbearable. Darnell Matthews had been with the Montgomery County Department of Planning and Zoning for 14 years. At 48 years old, he held the position of Chief City Zoning Administrator, a senior-level position requiring a master's degree in urban planning, extensive knowledge of municipal codes, and the authority to approve or deny permits, variances, and appeals that could make or break development projects worth millions of dollars. That morning, he was conducting a routine property survey for a city-approved street expansion project, Oakmont Drive, a residential street that had been on the county's infrastructure improvement plan for 3 years, was scheduled for widening to accommodate increased traffic flow and improve emergency vehicle access. The project had been approved by the county council, funded through a transportation bond, and vetted through every required public hearing and environmental review. Darnell's job was to verify exact property boundaries before construction began. He arrived at 10:15 a.m. in his county-issued vehicle, a white Ford F-150, with Montgomery County Planning and Zoning printed clearly on both doors. He wore his standard work uniform, navy blue polo shirt with the county seal embroidered on the chest, khaki work pants, steel-toed boots, and a bright yellow reflective safety vest with Zoning Administrator printed in large black letters across the back. He'd set up his surveying equipment at the property line between 2847 and 2851 Oakmont Drive, a tripod-mounted laser level used to establish elevation points and verify measurements against county records. This was technical work requiring precision. Every measurement had to be documented, photographed, and filed as part of the project's permanent record. He'd been working for about 15 minutes when he noticed movement at the house to his right, 2851 Oakmont Drive, owned by Rebecca Thornton, a 53-year-old real estate agent who lived in the neighborhood for 8 years. Rebecca had seen Darnell from her kitchen window, a black man, unfamiliar, standing at her property line with equipment she didn't recognize. And in her mind, shaped by years of implicit bias and neighborhood fear-mongering about property crime, she didn't see a city employee performing lawful duties. She saw a threat. She called 911. The call, later obtained through public records requests, was a master class in racially motivated false reporting.
There's a suspicious black man on my street measuring properties. I think he's planning break-ins. He's got some kind of device set up, like he's planning where to enter homes. Ma'am, is he attempting to enter any homes right now? Not yet, but he keeps looking at houses and writing things down. He's clearly casing the neighborhood. You need to send someone immediately before he robs us. Every element of that call was false. Darnell wasn't measuring properties for criminal purposes. He was conducting a government-mandated survey. He wasn't looking at houses. He was checking sight lines and elevation points. He wasn't writing things down suspiciously. He was completing official documentation required by law. But Rebecca Thornton's call, filtered through a dispatcher system and transmitted to patrol units, became suspicious person, possible trespassing, Oakmont Drive near the 2800 block. Officer Jason Whitmore responded. He was 23 years old, 6 months out of the academy, and on solo patrol for only his 3rd week. His training evaluations had noted concerns about his tendency to escalate situations unnecessarily. But like many understaffed departments, Montgomery County PD had pushed him through to active duty despite reservations. Whitmore pulled up to the location at 10:33 a.m. His body cam was activated. The footage shows him exiting his vehicle and immediately adopting an aggressive posture, shoulder squared, right hand hovering near his service weapon, approach angle designed for confrontation rather than conversation. Darnell was bent over his tripod, adjusting the laser level's calibration, his back partially turned to the street. He heard the car door slam but assumed it was a resident leaving for work. He didn't look up immediately. That's when Whitmore's voice cut through the quiet morning air. Hands up. Drop the tool. Now! Darnell straightened and turned, confusion evident on his face. He saw a young officer, weapon not drawn but hand positioned for quick access, aggressive stance, panicked expression. Hold up. Officer, let me explain. Whitmore stepped closer, cutting him off. You're on private property. I don't care about your story. You're under arrest. The body cam footage captures Darnell's expression perfectly. Not fear, not even anger yet, just absolute disbelief at the absurdity of what was happening. His voice remained calm, controlled, professional. This is a false arrest, white man. He slowly reached into his chest pocket, moving deliberately, carefully, the way people who understand police encounters learn to move, and pulled out a gold badge on a leather credential holder. He held it up, face level, clearly visible to both Whitmore and the body cam. I'm the Chief City Zoning Administrator for Montgomery County. This is my government-issued identification. I'm conducting a mandatory property assessment for a public street expansion project that's already been approved by the county council. And you just assaulted me while I was performing my official duties. See you in court. The moment should have ended there. A reasonable officer would have verified the credentials, apologized for the confusion, and left. But Officer Jason Whitmore wasn't trained in de-escalation. He was trained in compliance and control. And a black man, even one holding government credentials, refusing to immediately submit to his authority, registered in Whitmore's mind as a threat that needed to be neutralized. If an officer approached you like this while you were working, how would you react?
Officer Whitmore stared at the badge for approximately 3 seconds. The body cam footage shows him squinting, processing, his brain struggling to reconcile what he was seeing with what he'd assumed was happening. Then he said the words that would end his career. That could be fake. I'm taking you into custody until we verify your identity. Darnell's calm began to crack. Fake? You think I'm standing here in broad daylight with a county vehicle, county equipment, and county credentials committing some elaborate fraud? Call your supervisor. Right now. Whitmore ignored the request. Turn around. Hands behind your back. I'm not resisting, but I'm telling you this is unlawful detention of a government official performing mandated duties. You need to verify my credentials before you escalate this further. Whitmore grabbed Darnell's left arm. The body cam footage shows the sudden movement, the force applied, Darnell's body tensing in response to the unexpected contact. Don't touch me. Call your supervisor. Whitmore pulled Darnell's arm behind him with excessive force. Darnell instinctively pulled away, not to resist arrest, but because the angle was painful and the movement was violent. That natural defensive reaction gave Whitmore exactly what he needed. He's resisting! The body cam captures what happens next in brutal clarity. Whitmore swept Darnell's legs, forcing him to his knees on the concrete sidewalk. The impact was audible. Darnell grunted in pain. Whitmore pressed his knee into Darnell's back, wrenched both arms behind him at angles that strained his shoulders, and applied handcuffs with enough force that the metal bit into his wrists. Across the street, a doorbell camera at 2846 Oakman Drive captured the entire incident from a different angle. The footage shows clearly Darnell never made any aggressive movement. His hands remained visible throughout. His body language was non-threatening, and yet Officer Whitmore treated him like a violent criminal resisting arrest. I'm performing a government-ordered survey. Darnell's voice carried pain and fury. Call your supervisor. This is unlawful. Whitmore yanked him to his feet, gripping his arm hard enough to leave bruises that would be photographed hours later as evidence. You can explain it at the station. Another officer arrived, Sergeant Linda Morrison, a 19-year veteran who'd been monitoring the radio traffic and decided to check on the rookie's first significant encounter. She pulled up, assessed the scene, and immediately recognized what Whitmore apparently couldn't: the county vehicle, the professional surveying equipment, and the official safety vest. Whitmore, what's the situation?
Subject was trespassing. Claimed to be a city employee but couldn't provide proper ID. Darnell turned toward Morrison, his voice steady despite the handcuffs cutting into his wrists. Sergeant, I did provide proper ID, my government badge and credentials. I'm Chief City Zoning Administrator Darnell Matthews. My information is in your dispatch system. This officer refused to verify my identity before placing me under arrest." Morrison's expression shifted. She walked over to Darnell's equipment, examined the county seals and identification numbers stamped on the surveying tools, checked the county vehicle registration visible through the windshield, and pulled out her radio. "Dispatch, can you run a check on Montgomery County employee Darnell Matthews, position City Zoning Administrator?" The response came back within 30 seconds. "Affirmative. Darnell Matthews, age 48, Chief City Zoning Administrator for Montgomery County Planning and Zoning, employee ID number MC7743. No warrants, no flags." Morrison turned to Whitmore, her voice tight with barely restrained anger. "Remove the handcuffs, now." Whitmore's face went pale. "But Sergeant, the 911 call said—" "I don't care what the call said. You just arrested a senior government official while he was performing his legal duties. Remove the handcuffs." The body cam footage captures the moment Whitmore realized he'd destroyed his career. His hands shook as he fumbled with his handcuff key. It took him 3 attempts to unlock them. When they finally clicked open, Darnell pulled his arms forward slowly, rubbing his wrists where angry red marks were already forming. Morrison addressed Darnell directly, her tone professional, but tinged with embarrassment. "Mr. Matthews, I apologize on behalf of the Montgomery County Police Department. This should not have happened." Darnell's response was measured but firm. "Sergeant, with all due respect, an apology doesn't undo what just occurred. I was assaulted while performing my official duties. I was handcuffed on a public sidewalk despite providing proper identification. And I was treated like a criminal because someone made assumptions based on my race." He turned to Whitmore. "And you, officer, just made the worst mistake of your career, because I'm not just filing a complaint. I'm pursuing every legal remedy available to me. False arrest, assault, violation of civil rights, interference with government operations, and I have body cam footage, doorbell camera footage, and witnesses to support every single charge." Whitmore opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Morrison put a hand on his shoulder. "Don't say anything else. We're leaving. Now." They returned to their vehicles and left. Darnell stood on the sidewalk for several minutes, breathing deeply, processing what had just happened. Then he pulled out his phone and called his wife, an attorney with the ACLU. The conversation was brief. "Honey, I was just arrested while doing my job. I need you to document everything and contact our civil rights team. This ends today."
Within 2 hours, the machinery of accountability began moving. Darnell's wife, attorney Jennifer Matthews, contacted the ACLU Maryland chapter, the Montgomery County Office of Internal Affairs, and a civil rights litigation firm that specialized in police misconduct cases. By that afternoon, formal complaints had been filed through 3 separate channels. But the real revelation came when investigators pulled the 911 call recording. Because what Rebecca Thornton had told the dispatcher wasn't just misleading, it was deliberately false in ways that revealed conscious racial bias. The full recording, obtained through Maryland Public Information Act request, told a damning story. "There's a suspicious black man on my street measuring properties. I think he's planning break-ins." The dispatcher had asked for more detail. "Can you describe what he's doing specifically?" "He's got equipment set up, like surveying equipment, and he keeps writing things down and looking at houses. He's clearly casing the neighborhood for robberies. I saw him looking through windows." That last claim, looking through windows, was a complete fabrication. The doorbell camera footage from multiple homes on the street proved Darnell never approached any windows, never looked into any homes, never did anything except work at the property line with his surveying equipment. Rebecca Thornton had lied, deliberately, to make Darnell sound more threatening, to ensure police would respond aggressively, to weaponize law enforcement against a black man whose presence in her neighborhood made her uncomfortable. The Montgomery County Police Department's internal investigation moved quickly. Whitmore's body cam footage was reviewed by supervisors, use of force specialists, and the department's civil rights compliance officer. Their findings were unanimous and devastating. Officer Whitmore had violated 7 separate department policies: failure to verify credentials before making arrest, excessive force during detention of non-resistant subject, failure to de-escalate encounter despite subject compliance, improper assessment of threat level, failure to call for supervisor when subject claimed official capacity, violation of protocols regarding detention of government employees, creating liability for department through negligent law enforcement. But the systemic problems ran deeper than one rookie's mistakes. The investigation revealed that Whitmore had never received training on how to recognize or verify government employee credentials. He'd never been taught that certain officials, zoning administrators, building inspectors, code enforcement officers, have legal authority to access properties without owner permission when performing official duties. His academic training had covered basic ID verification for driver's licenses and state-issued identification cards, but nothing in his curriculum addressed government badges, professional credentials, or the legal frameworks protecting officials performing mandated work. This wasn't just individual failure. This was institutional failure, a training gap that left officers unprepared for encounters with the very officials whose work kept the county functioning.
Failure to verify credentials before making arrest, excessive force during detention of non-resistant subject, failure to de-escalate encounter despite subject compliance, improper assessment of threat level, failure to call for supervisor when subject claimed official capacity, violation of protocols regarding detention of government employees, creating liability for department through negligent law enforcement. But the systemic problems ran deeper than one rookie's mistakes. The investigation revealed that Whitmore had never received training on how to recognize or verify government employee credentials. He'd never been taught that certain officials, zoning administrators, building inspectors, code enforcement officers, have legal authority to access properties without owner permission when performing official duties. His academy training had covered basic ID verification for driver's licenses and state-issued identification cards. But nothing in his curriculum addressed government badges, professional credentials, or the legal frameworks protecting officials performing mandated work. This wasn't just individual failure. This was institutional failure, a training gap that left officers unprepared for encounters with the very officials whose work kept the county functioning. The training division's own review confirmed this. Their report stated, "Current academy curriculum does not adequately prepare officers to recognize municipal authority or verify government employee credentials. This gap creates significant liability risk and potential for civil rights violations. Immediate curriculum revision required." 3 days after the incident, Darnell gave a detailed statement to internal affairs investigators. His account, corroborated by multiple video sources, painted a picture of an encounter that should never have escalated beyond a brief conversation. "I was doing my job. I had every legal right and professional obligation to be exactly where I was, doing exactly what I was doing. I wasn't trespassing. I wasn't committing any crime. I was performing work that serves the public interest. And yet I was treated like a criminal because a biased caller and an undertrained officer couldn't see past my race." The investigation also examined Rebecca Torton's role. Maryland law makes filing false police reports a misdemeanor, punishable by up to 6 months in jail and a $500 fine. But proving intent is difficult. People make mistakes, misidentify situations, report things they believe to be true even when they're wrong. But the discrepancy between what Torton told the 911 dispatcher and what actually happened was too significant to dismiss as mere misunderstanding. She'd claimed Darnell was looking through windows, an allegation with zero evidence. She'd characterized professional surveying equipment as tools for planning break-ins. She'd transformed lawful government work into a criminal conspiracy purely through her imagination and bias.
Prosecutors reviewed the case and determined they had sufficient evidence to charge Thornton with filing a false police report and making false statements to emergency services. She was arrested 2 weeks later. The irony was not lost on anyone. The woman who'd weaponized 911 against a black government official was now facing criminal charges herself.
But the biggest revelation, the one that would ultimately cost Rebecca Thornton $850,000, came when investigators reviewed the property records for 2851 Oakmont Drive. Because Rebecca Thornton had filed an administrative appeal challenging the street expansion project, she had claimed the proposed widening would damage her property value, create noise issues, and fundamentally alter the neighborhood character. Her appeal had been scheduled for hearing before the County Zoning Board in 6 weeks. And the person with final administrative authority to recommend approval or denial of that appeal? Chief City Zoning Administrator Darnell Matthews. Should 911 callers be held accountable for false, racially motivated reports? The civil rights lawsuit was filed exactly 3 weeks after the arrest. Darnell Matthews v. Officer Jason Whitmore. Sergeant Linda Morrison for supervisory failure. Montgomery County Police Department, and Montgomery County Government. The complaint was comprehensive: false arrest, assault and battery, violation of Fourth Amendment rights, violation of 14th Amendment equal protection rights, intentional infliction of emotional distress, interference with government operations, municipal liability for inadequate training. But it was the attached evidence that made the case unbeatable. Bodycam footage showing the entire encounter. Doorbell camera footage from 3 different angles. The falsified 911 call recording. Whitmore's training records showing the gaps in his education. Internal affairs reports confirming policy violations. Medical documentation of Darnell's injuries. Bruised wrists, scraped knees, soft tissue damage to his shoulders. The county's attorneys took one look at the evidence and recommended immediate settlement negotiations. No trial, no prolonged discovery, no risk of a jury seeing that footage and awarding damages that could bankrupt the department. But before settlement talks could begin, Rebecca Thornton's property appeal hearing arrived on the county calendar. The hearing was scheduled for May 18th in the County Administrative Building's main conference room. It was a routine proceeding. Property owners had the right to appeal development projects they believed would harm their interests. Thornton arrived with her attorney, a stack of property value assessments, and a presentation arguing why the street expansion should be denied or modified to avoid impacting her land. Darnell Matthews arrived with the body cam footage. The hearing was conducted by the County Zoning Board, a 5-member panel of appointed officials who reviewed appeals and made recommendations to the County Council. Thornton's attorney presented her case: property devaluation, loss of privacy, increased traffic noise, disruption to neighborhood character. Then it was time for the zoning administrator's response. Darnell stood, connected his laptop to the conference room display, and addressed the board with professional calm. Members of the board, before I address the technical merits of this appeal, I need to provide context about the appellant's conduct. Rebecca Thornton is not simply a concerned property owner exercising her legal rights. She is someone who has demonstrated a pattern of obstructing legitimate government operations through false accusations and racially motivated harassment. He played the body cam footage, the entire incident, start to finish, in high-definition clarity. The board members watched in silence as Thornton's 911 call was played, as Whitmore's aggressive approach was shown, as Darnell's professional credentials were displayed and ignored, as he was forced to the ground and handcuffed for doing his job. When the footage ended, the room was silent. Darnell continued, "Miss Thornton called 911 and deliberately lied about my actions. She claimed I was looking through windows and casing homes for robbery. The video evidence proves these claims were completely fabricated. She weaponized law enforcement against me because my presence, a black man performing government work, made her uncomfortable. And now she's using the same administrative process I oversee to obstruct the very project I was surveying when she had me unlawfully arrested. He pulled up the project documentation. The Oakmont Drive expansion has been approved through every required channel. Environmental review completed. Public hearings conducted. Funding allocated. Construction timeline finalized. Ms. Thornton attended 0 public meetings during the approval process. She filed 0 objections until after she successfully had me arrested for performing my duties. Her appeal is not based on legitimate concerns about the project's impact. It's retaliation. Thornton's attorney tried to object, but the board chair cut him off. Ms. Thornton, do you dispute Administrator Matthews' characterization of the 911 call? Rebecca Thornton's face was pale. She looked at her attorney, who gave her a slight nod. I made that call because I was concerned about suspicious activity in my neighborhood. Suspicious activity? Darnell's voice carried controlled anger. You saw a black man with professional equipment and a government vehicle and decided he must be a criminal. That's not concern, that's racism. And it resulted in my assault, my unlawful arrest, and significant emotional and professional harm. And now you're asking this board to validate your obstruction by denying a project that serves the public interest. The board deliberated for exactly 12 minutes. Their decision was unanimous. Appeal denied. The Oakmont Drive expansion will proceed as approved. Furthermore, this board is referring Ms. Thornton's conduct to the county attorney's office for review regarding potential violations of administrative process integrity. Rebecca Thornton left the hearing in silence. She didn't know it yet, but that decision had just cost her $850,000. Should government officials be allowed to use Bodycam footage in property decisions?
Officer Jason Whitmore was terminated from the Montgomery County Police Department on June 2nd, exactly 39 days after the incident. The termination letter was detailed and unambiguous. Officer Whitmore's conduct on April 25th violated multiple department policies and created significant legal liability. His failure to verify credentials, use of excessive force against a non-resistant subject, and refusal to de-escalate despite clear evidence of the subject's legitimate authority demonstrate a fundamental inability to perform law enforcement duties in a manner consistent with constitutional requirements and community trust. Employment terminated immediately. Post-certification revoked. Whitmore's law enforcement career was over. His name entered the National Decertification Database, preventing him from ever working as a police officer in any state. At 23 years old, 6 months out of the academy, his chosen profession was closed to him forever. The civil rights lawsuit settled 4 months later. Montgomery County agreed to pay Darnell Matthews $275,000 in compensatory damages, cover all legal fees, issue a formal public apology, and implement comprehensive training reforms. The training reforms were extensive: mandatory instruction on recognizing government employee credentials, protocols for verifying official capacity before making arrests, enhanced de-escalation training specifically addressing encounters with professionals performing lawful duties, implicit bias training with special focus on assumptions about people of color in professional roles, regular audits of officer encounters with government employees. But the largest financial consequence fell on Rebecca Thornton, because when the Oakmont Drive expansion proceeded as approved, it did exactly what street expansion projects do to adjacent properties. It changed everything.
I'm calling the police. You're not allowed to be on this property.
Ma'am, this is my property.
Don't lie to me. People like you don't live in this neighborhood. Put the tools down now.
You really should think before you speak. You call the police, tell them you just threatened the state attorney in his own front yard.
On a brilliant Saturday afternoon in Oakland's Lake Merritt Park, where families gather and the smell of grilled food drifts across manicured lawns, a cell phone camera captured an encounter that would become a flashpoint in America's ongoing conversation about race, public space, and who gets to decide who belongs. A white woman, later identified as Jennifer BBQ Becky Schulte, stood beside a park ranger's vehicle, pointing repeatedly at a black family
cooking on a small charcoal grill near the shoreline. She didn't know their names. She didn't know they had a permit. She only saw people she believed didn't belong and called armed enforcement to remove them. But within hours, her 2-hour confrontation with the Smithson family would explode into a viral phenomenon that cost her career, her reputation, and became a case study in how white fragility weaponizes authority against black joy. Because the family she was screaming at wasn't breaking any rules. They had followed every regulation. They had done everything right. Her mistake didn't just expose her prejudice. It ignited a movement. Before we continue, where are you watching from? If this is your first time here, please hit that subscribe button. Stories like these need to be shared, and your support helps bring more truth to light.
The video begins shaky, then steadies. The frame captures Lake Merritt on April 29, 2018. It's 11:47 a.m. Temperature hovering around 68 degrees. The kind of California spring day where people emerge from their homes hungry for sunshine and community. In the lower right quadrant of the frame, the Smithson family. Javon Smithson, 38, a software engineer at a tech startup in San Francisco. His wife, Michelle, 36, a middle school science teacher. Their 2 children, Kayla, 8, and Marcus, 6, playing with a frisbee on the grass nearby. They've claimed a spot near the lake with a clear view of the water. A red and white checkered blanket spreads across the grass. A small Weber charcoal grill sits on the designated concrete pad, one of dozens scattered throughout the park specifically for public use. Smoke rises gently from burgers and hot dogs. This is their monthly ritual, the first family barbecue of the season. In the upper left of the frame, Jennifer Schulte, 43, a pharmaceutical sales representative from the neighboring suburb of Piedmont. White, blonde, wearing yoga pants and a fitted athletic jacket. Her face is tight with what she clearly believes is righteous indignation. She's been standing there for 23 minutes. The confrontation didn't start with the camera rolling. It started 30 minutes earlier, when Jennifer was walking her small white dog along the lake path. She saw the Smithson family setting up their grill. She stopped walking. She stared. Then she approached. According to witnesses who would later give statements, Jennifer's first words were not a polite inquiry. They were an accusation. "You can't use charcoal grills here. This is a non-charcoal area." Javon looked up from arranging the coals, his face showing the patient exhaustion of someone who'd had this exact conversation before, in different contexts. "Actually, ma'am, we checked the park regulations. Charcoal grills are permitted in this section. We even called the Parks Department yesterday to confirm." Jennifer's jaw tightened. "I've been coming to this park for 15 years. I know the rules." Michelle stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. "We have the permit information on our phone if you'd like to see it. We're following all posted regulations." This is the moment where most people would apologize, feel embarrassed, and walk away. Jennifer doubled down. "You're making the whole area smoky. You're disturbing other families. This is inappropriate." The camera, being filmed by another park visitor named Caitlin Wu, a 24-year-old grad student who'd been watching the interaction escalate, catches this moment. Caitlin would later say in interviews that something about Jennifer's tone, her body language, the way she was hovering over this black family with aggressive authority, triggered her instinct to document. The video shows Jennifer with her phone pressed to her ear. Her free hand gestures sharply at the Smithson family. "Yes, I need someone from Oakland Parks to come immediately. There's a family using an illegal grill and they're refusing to leave." Javon stands up, brushing charcoal dust from his hands. He's 6'2", broad-shouldered, and his mere act of standing seems to make Jennifer step back and speak louder into her phone. "Ma'am," Javon says, his voice carrying the careful modulation of a black man who knows any display of emotion will be weaponized against him. "We're not leaving. We have every right to be here. We have a permit. We paid the reservation fee. We're using a designated grill area." Jennifer's response is caught clearly on camera,
People like you always think rules don't apply to them. At this moment, what would you have said to her? I want to hear it. The comment lands like a slap. Michelle's face hardens. Javon's hands curl into fists at his sides, then deliberately relax. Both of them understand exactly what people like you means.
Caitlin moves closer, her phone camera now clearly visible. Other park visitors begin to notice the commotion. A small crowd starts to form, not surrounding the family, but creating a loose perimeter of witnesses. Jennifer notices the cameras. Instead of deterring her, it seems to embolden her. She's convinced she's in the right, convinced she's protecting the park, convinced her 15 years of weekend walks give her authority over people who followed every rule. She calls 911. The audio on Caitlin's video captures fragments of the call. Yes, I'm at Lake Merritt. There's a family having an illegal barbecue. They're using charcoal in a non-charcoal zone. They're being aggressive and refusing to comply. That last part, being aggressive, is demonstrably false. The video shows the Smithson family standing near the grill, not approaching Jennifer, not raising their voices, simply existing in the space they paid to reserve. A park ranger vehicle pulls up. Ranger Michael Torres, a 15-year veteran of Oakland Parks and Recreation, steps out. He's Latino, early 40s, and his body language immediately suggests he's exhausted before this conversation even begins. "What's the problem here?" Torres asks, his voice neutral. Jennifer rushes toward him, her words tumbling over each other. "They're using an illegal charcoal grill. They're creating smoke. They won't leave. I've told them multiple times they're breaking the rules." Torres holds up one hand. "Ma'am, let me check the situation." He walks to the Smithson family. Javon already has his phone out, showing the permit confirmation email and the park map highlighting designated charcoal grill zones. Torres examines it for maybe 15 seconds. Then he turns back to Jennifer. "Ma'am, this family is in compliance with all park regulations. Charcoal grills are permitted in this section. They have a valid reservation. There's no violation here." Jennifer's face flushes red. "That can't be right. I've been coming here for years." "The regulations were updated 3 years ago. Charcoal grills are now allowed in designated zones. This is one of them. These folks have done everything correctly." This is the moment where most people would apologize and leave. Jennifer escalates.
Then I want to file a formal complaint. They're still creating a disturbance. They're being hostile. I don't feel safe. The video captures Javon's face. He's not angry. He's not surprised. He looks tired. The bone-deep tired of someone who's played this scene 100 times in 100 different contexts. Michelle puts her hand on his arm. The children have stopped playing and moved closer to their parents, confused and frightened by the white woman who won't stop yelling. If you were the Smithson family, would you stay and finish your barbecue or pack up and leave to avoid further confrontation? Torres turns to Jennifer, his voice dropping to a tone that suggests this is his final word on the matter. "Ma'am, there's no complaint to file. They're not violating any regulations. You've been here for," he checks his watch, "over half an hour, arguing about rules that don't exist. I'm asking you to move along and let this family enjoy their afternoon." Jennifer's expression shifts. The righteous indignation hardens into something uglier. "Fine, I'll wait for the police." And she does. For another hour and 47 minutes. What happens next becomes the surreal heart of the story. Jennifer doesn't leave. She positions herself approximately 20 feet from the Smithson family and waits. She's called 911 3 times now. Each call is logged. Each dispatcher has told her that unless there's an actual emergency or violation, police response will be low priority. But Jennifer waits anyway. The Smithson family faces an impossible choice. They can leave, abandon their permitted space, their paid reservation, their family tradition, and let this woman's harassment succeed, or they can stay and continue their barbecue while a white woman glares at them and multiple cameras document the absurdity of this situation.
they choose to stay. Michelle flips the burgers. Javon tends the grill. The children, sensing their parents' tension but trying to maintain normalcy, sit on the blanket coloring with sidewalk chalk. More phones come out. More witnesses start recording. The crowd swells to nearly 30 people, most of them expressing support for the Smithson family, some offering them water and snacks in solidarity. One witness, a white man in his 50s named Robert Chen, approaches Jennifer. "Ma'am, you need to let this go. These people haven't done anything wrong. You are harassing a black family for having a barbecue." Jennifer wheels on him. "This isn't about race. I would do this to anyone breaking the rules." "But they're not breaking the rules," Robert says, his voice rising. "A park ranger already confirmed they're in compliance. What are you really upset about?" Jennifer's face crumples and hardens simultaneously. She doesn't answer. She just keeps waiting. At 1:34 p.m., 2 hours and 14 minutes after Jennifer first approached the Smithson family, 2 Oakland police officers arrive. Should filing false 911 calls about people following all regulations carry criminal consequences? Drop your answer below.
Officers Denise Ramirez and James Wu step out of their patrol car with the visible demeanor of people who've already been briefed on exactly how ridiculous this call is. Dispatch has logged Jennifer's multiple calls. The Rangers have radioed in their assessment. The officers know before they arrive that there's no violation, no crime, no legitimate reason for their presence. But they're here anyway because Jennifer has weaponized their authority. Officer Ramirez approaches Jennifer first. "Ma'am, you called about an illegal barbecue?" "Yes." Jennifer's voice carries relief and vindication. "They've been here for hours, using a charcoal grill in a prohibited zone, creating smoke, being hostile." Ramirez holds up one hand, cutting her off mid-sentence. "Ma'am, we've already confirmed with Park Services that this family is in compliance with all regulations. They have a valid permit. They're in a designated charcoal grill zone. There's no violation." Jennifer's mouth opens and closes. "But I've been coming here for 15 years. "The regulations changed," Officer Wu interjects, his tone flat and professional, but with an edge of impatience. "You've been told this multiple times by multiple people, including a park ranger. You've made 3 911 calls about a non-emergency situation. Do you understand that's a misuse of emergency services?" The blood drains from Jennifer's face. Around them, phones continue recording. Caitlin's video, which has now been running for over an hour with brief interruptions, captures the moment when Jennifer realizes she's not the hero of this story. Officer Ramirez turns to the Smithson family. "Folks, I apologize for the disruption to your afternoon. You're welcome to continue your barbecue. You haven't done anything wrong." Javon nods slowly. "Thank you, officer. We appreciate that." Ramirez turns back to Jennifer. "Ma'am, you need to leave this area immediately. If you continue to harass this family, we can cite you for disturbing the peace." "Harass?" Jennifer's voice pitches up. "I'm trying to enforce the rules. I'm protecting the pork." "You're harassing a black family having a permitted barbecue," Officer Wu says, no longer maintaining professional neutrality. "And you've wasted 2 hours of Park Services time and police resources because you couldn't accept that you were wrong." Jennifer's face contorts. "This is discrimination. You're taking their side because they're right and you're wrong," Ramirez snaps. "Leave, now, or we'll cite you." Jennifer grabs her dog's leash and storms away, her face red, her hands shaking. She's muttering loud enough for nearby cameras to catch. "This is unbelievable. This is what's wrong with this city. No one follows rules anymore." She doesn't know it yet, but Caitlin's video is already uploading to Twitter with the caption, "White woman calls cops on black family having a legal barbecue at Lake Merritt. This is #BarbecueBecky." Within 3 hours, it will have 400,000 views. Within 24 hours, it will have 12 million.
The internet works fast. By sunset on April 29th, Jennifer Schulte's face is everywhere. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, national news websites. The hashtag BBQ Becky trends worldwide. Late-night talk shows prepare segments. Memes proliferate faster than Jennifer's employers can draft a response. The video evidence is damning because it's comprehensive. Multiple angles from multiple witnesses show Jennifer approaching unprovoked. The Smithson family calmly explaining their permit. Jennifer refusing to accept the park ranger's confirmation. Jennifer waiting for 2 hours despite being told repeatedly she was wrong. Police arriving and immediately siding with the family. Jennifer's complete inability to admit error. The court of public opinion moves swiftly. Commentary pours in from civil rights organizations, cultural critics, everyday people who see themselves in the Smithson family's experience. This is what Black families face constantly, scrutinized, questioned, policed for doing everyday activities white families do without a second thought. She couldn't conceive that a Black family followed the rules better than she understood them. The entitlement to call armed police on children eating hot dogs because you don't think they belong. Jennifer's employer, a mid-sized pharmaceutical company, issues a statement within 36 hours. We are aware of the incident involving our employee. We're investigating and will respond appropriately. We do not condone harassment or discrimination in any form. Corporate language. Careful. Non-committal. But the pressure doesn't stop. Customers threaten boycotts. Employees express discomfort working alongside Jennifer. The company's social media accounts are flooded with demands for her termination.
Jennifer tries to defend herself. She releases a statement through a friend's Facebook account. "I was trying to protect the park I've loved for years. I wasn't trying to discriminate against anyone. I would have done the same thing regardless of race. People are taking this out of context and destroying my life over a misunderstanding." The statement backfires spectacularly. You spent 2 hours harassing a family with children. Where's the misunderstanding? Regardless of race is what every racist says right before explaining why they only call cops on Black people. You had multiple people tell you they were right and you were wrong, and you still called 911 3 times. That's not concern, that's hatred. Oakland's mayor, Libby Schaaf, weighs in during a press conference about an unrelated issue. A reporter asks about the BBQ Becky incident. "What happened to that family is unacceptable," Schaaf says firmly. "Lake Merritt is a public space that belongs to everyone. Weaponizing police against Black families doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing, following permits, following rules, simply existing, is a manifestation of the bias we're working to eliminate in Oakland." Should footage like this always be made public? Comment below. But this isn't an isolated incident, and the narrator's voice shifts to provide the broader context that explains why #BBQBecky resonated so powerfully. In the 6 months before the Lake Merritt incident, similar viral videos had documented white people calling police on Black people for a Black real estate investor inspecting a property he owned, a neighbor called police for suspicious activity, a Black family using a community pool they had membership to, a white woman demanded to see their access cards, a Black college student napping in her own dorm room common room, a white student called police for trespassing, a Black child selling water on a sidewalk without a permit, a white woman called police on an 8-year-old, a Black family checking out of an Airbnb they'd rented, a white neighbor called police for burglary. The pattern was undeniable. White people wielding police as weapons to remove Black people from spaces, public parks, private pools, college dorms, residential neighborhoods, based purely
on the assumption that Black presence equals criminal activity. Researchers at Stanford University studying these incidents coined a term, participation policing, the act of using law enforcement to police who gets to participate in public life. Dr. Sean Harper, executive director of the USC Race and Equity Center, explained in an interview following the BBQ Becky incident. These aren't isolated acts of individual prejudice. They're manifestations of systemic racism that teaches white people they have the authority to determine who belongs in shared spaces. and they're dangerous because they can escalate to violence. Every call to police on a black person doing nothing illegal is a potential death sentence. The statistics support this. Research from the Cato Institute found that between 2010 and 2016, Black Americans were 2.5 times more likely than white Americans to be killed by police, and a significant percentage of those encounters began with calls about non-criminal activity, wellness checks, traffic stops, reports of suspicious behavior that turned out to be everyday life. The Smithson family understood this viscerally. When Jennifer made her first 911 call, Jevin told Michelle, "We stay calm, we stay polite. We don't give them any excuse," because they knew what Jennifer either didn't know or didn't care about. Her phone call could have gotten them killed. Within 1 week of the incident, multiple investigations were underway. Oakland Police Department opened an internal review of Jennifer's 3 911 calls. California law prohibits knowingly filing false reports with law enforcement, and the department needed to determine whether Jennifer's calls met that threshold. The review pulled the dispatch recordings. All 3 calls contain false or misleading information. Call number 1, they're using an illegal grill and refusing to leave. False, the grill was legal and they had no obligation to leave. Call number 2, they're being aggressive and creating a dangerous situation. False, video evidence shows no aggression whatsoever. And call number 3, I need police here immediately. I don't feel safe. Manipulative, Jennifer felt unsafe because she was told she was wrong, not because of any threatening behavior. California Penal Code 148.3 makes it a misdemeanor to falsely report a crime or emergency knowing the report to be false. The penalty can include up to 6 months in jail and a fine of up to $1,000.
But prosecution requires proving Jennifer knew her claims were false. Her defense would likely be, "I genuinely believed they were violating regulations." The fact that a park ranger explicitly told her otherwise would undermine that defense. Oakland City Attorney Barbara Parker reviewed the case and made a calculated decision. Rather than pursue criminal charges that might not stick and would consume significant prosecutorial resources, her office issued Jennifer a formal citation for misuse of emergency services, a lesser infraction carrying a $500 fine and mandatory completion of a community education program. Jennifer's employer made their own calculation. On May 7th, 9 days after the incident, they announced her termination. Quote, "After thorough review, we've determined that Ms. Schulte's actions are incompatible with our company values of inclusion, respect, and community responsibility. Her employment has been terminated effective immediately." Unquote. Jennifer didn't go quietly. Through her attorney, she threatened a wrongful termination lawsuit, claiming she was fired for exercising her rights as a concerned citizen. The company's legal team responded with a detailed documentation package showing customer complaints specifically citing discomfort with her employment, employee complaints about hostile work environment, company policy violations regarding conduct reflecting negatively on the organization, at-will employment status giving them broad discretion. The lawsuit threat evaporated. Jennifer's Homeowners Association in Piedmont also took action. Following complaints from multiple residents and national media attention focusing on their community, the HOA board issued a formal censure and launched an investigation into whether Jennifer's behavior violated community conduct standards. The investigation findings, released publicly due to media pressure, were scathing. Quote, "Ms. Schulte's actions demonstrated prejudice, poor judgment, and abuse of emergency services. While this incident occurred outside our community, it reflects on our neighborhood's values and reputation. The board has unanimously voted to place Ms. Schulte on social probation and require completion of implicit bias training." Unquote. Social probation meant Jennifer couldn't participate in community events, use shared amenities, or serve on any HOA committees for 1 year. For a woman who'd built her identity around being an upstanding community member, the public rebuke was devastating. Do you think she should have lost her job for this? Drop your answer in the comments.
2 weeks after the incident, the Smithson family held a press conference at Lake Merritt
in the same spot where they'd been harassed. Javon and Michelle stood at a podium with their attorneys from the ACLU of Northern California. Their children were not present. The family had made a deliberate choice to shield Kayla and Marcus from further media exposure. Javon spoke first, his voice steady but weighted with emotion. On April 29th, my family went to a public park to have a barbecue. We did everything right. We researched the regulations, we made a reservation, we paid the fee, we brought all required documentation, we chose a designated grill area, we followed every single rule. And we were still treated like criminals. Not because we did anything wrong, but because a woman looked at our black family and decided we didn't belong. She couldn't imagine that we'd followed the rules better than she understood them. She couldn't accept that a park ranger, police officers, and dozens of witnesses all confirmed we were right and she was wrong. She spent 2 hours trying to force us out of a space we had every legal right to occupy. And she weaponized 911 to do it. He paused, his jaw tightening. People keep asking me, why didn't you just leave? Why stay and deal with her harassment? Because leaving would mean teaching my children that they don't belong in public spaces. That when white people question their right to exist somewhere, the correct response is to shrink, to apologize, to disappear. I will not teach my children that. My son is 6 years old. My daughter is 8. They need to see their father stand firm when someone tries to diminish us. They need to learn that we have rights, that we deserve dignity, and that we don't back down when we've done nothing wrong. Michelle took the microphone next. I'm a teacher. I spend my days telling young people that the world is getting better, that equality is expanding, that education and kindness will overcome prejudice. And then I spend my Saturday getting harassed at a park barbecue. What happened to us happens to black families constantly. We get followed in stores, we get questioned in our own neighborhoods, we get police called on us for existing. When my daughter asked me why that woman was so angry at us, what was I supposed to say? Some people think our skin color makes us criminals even when we're eating hot dogs? That's a conversation no parent should have to have, but it's one black parents have every single day. Jennifer Schulte lost her job. She paid a fine. She got internet famous for being racist. Good. Maybe that will make the next person think twice before calling 911 on a black family doing nothing wrong.
But accountability for one woman doesn't fix the system that taught her we were threats in the first place. Their attorney, civil rights lawyer James Kwan, spoke last. The Smithson family has asked me to make clear they're not pursuing civil litigation against Ms. Schulte. They could. They have grounds for harassment claims, emotional distress, violation of civil rights, but they've chosen a different path. They're working with civil rights organizations to develop training programs for parks departments, police, and 911 dispatchers specifically focused on recognizing and de-escalating bias-motivated calls. They're partnering with the ACLU to draft model legislation increasing penalties for false 911 reports that target people based on race. And they're turning their experience into education, speaking to community groups and schools about implicit bias and the real-world consequences of participation policing. Their goal isn't revenge, it's change. What part of the Smithson family's message hits you the hardest? Comment below. The immediate aftermath played out over the following months. Jennifer Schulte completed her court-mandated community education program, a 16-hour course on implicit bias, cultural competency, and the history of weaponized police calls against Black Americans. According to the program coordinator, she attended but participated minimally, her body language suggesting resentment rather than reflection. She completed her HOA-required training as well, but by September 2018, 5 months after the incident, she listed her Piedmont home for sale. Real estate records show she purchased a property in a smaller town 90 miles north of Oakland shortly after. She attempted to rebuild her career in pharmaceutical sales, but found the Barbecue Becky label followed her. LinkedIn profiles, Google searches, background checks, Prospective employers found the videos, read the articles, and decided the liability outweighed her sales experience. As of 2024, public records suggest she works in an administrative role at a medical clinic, far from the public-facing position she once held. The Smithson family had their own reckoning. They returned to Lake Merritt for barbecues, but Javon installed security cameras at their home after receiving threatening messages from people who believed Jennifer had been treated unfairly. Michelle started carrying mace when she took the kids to the park. The psychological toll was real. Kayla developed anxiety about going to public spaces. Marcus asked his parents if they could just barbecue in the backyard instead. The family sought counseling to process the trauma of being criminalized for doing something completely ordinary.
But they also channeled their experience into activism. They partnered with the ACLU, the NAACP, and local Oakland organizations to create the Living While Black Education Initiative, a program bringing their story and others like it into schools, police academies, and corporate diversity trainings. The video of their harassment became a teaching tool, not for entertainment, but for education. The Oakland Parks Department revised its signage to make grill regulations clearer and more visible. They also implemented new training for rangers, specifically on recognizing and interrupting bias-motivated complaints. Oakland Police Department added a module to dispatcher training on assessing the legitimacy of suspicious activity calls, with specific attention to patterns suggesting racial bias. Dispatchers now ask additional questions when callers report non-criminal behavior and flag repeat callers who demonstrate concerning patterns. And California State Senator Scott Wiener introduced the Karen Act, a caution against racially exploitative non-emergencies, in 2020, making it explicitly illegal to make false racially motivated 911 calls. The legislation was inspired directly by incidents like Barbecue Becky and similar viral confrontations. The bill passed and became law, creating specific legal consequences for weaponizing emergency services based on racial bias. Do you think justice was served? Let me know in the comments.